Hey everybody, it's Nikki. Just coming to you today to show you a little bit, share with you a little bit how I sort of prep up a watercolor block for when I'm going to do a painting. My cat seems to be interested in talking as well. Uh-huh. Sorry guys if I sound a little weird. I've been just recovering from a little bit of a sort of a nasty cold that's been going on for a little while, but I figured I'd share this with you guys because it's not going to be too long. Just a little something. Um, so I guess um, this is sort of like my take on this sort of thing where I usually color the background with like sort of like a almost like an abstract pattern, and then wait for it to dry and paint on top of it my subject matter. Part of this kind of developed, and I'm just going to start going in a little bit as I talk. Part of this I kind of started doing this way. I am going to use this big fat guy to lay some color and some water down, I should say. So that way I'm kind of working a little bit wet into wet. But like I was saying, part of the reason that I started doing this is because, strangely enough, I actually was born legally blind in one of my eyes. And because of that, even into my adulthood, even though I've had, like corrective therapies and stuff like that, I don't really see the way everybody else sees. So even though I am a visual artist, I have extremely bad depth perception, and I have really bad. I've always really struggled with perspective because for me, it actually just looks a lot different than from other people. That doesn't mean obviously that I don't do it ever, but it kind of I started doing the background this way in a little bit of almost as like a cheat. But I really liked it. I really liked doing it this way. It encourages me to use more color, more different color, and kind of work a little bit looser. And I really like that about it as well. So I'm trying to think what this painting I'm going to do. I'm going to too vertical. See, this is the thing. So I have the idea of what I'm going to do, but I haven't fleshed anything out yet. So this is just the very first steps. So because of that, I kind of know where I'm going to go with a lot of different stuff. Typically in the background, I go pretty bright. Like my colors tend to be pretty saturated and bright. And I kind of add some water and like a little tie-dye effect kind of thing going on. I do concentrate color more in some areas and then others. And, that does sometimes affect where I actually place the subject matter of the painting when that time comes as well. And it does sometimes affect the color choices that I use, which it's all kind of part of the creative process for me. Because in a way it ends up being like the colors affect just every part of it. So I do love color. I'm really a very even in my life, I like to dress in certain colors, and I like pair certain colors always together and different things like that. People tend to tell me that it seems very cool in my wardrobe, and I think it's just uh, love of color. And actually, I don't know if you guys can see from here, so I have like a weird little setup going on right now. It's actually in my kitchen. But I actually have collected a few leaves that are going to go into this as part of the subject matter. This is sort of like a reference. So actually, I have them here on the table as part of like, well, let me see if I can bring some of these colors in as well. So let's see if there's some yellows and some reds going on. Excuse me. This is gonna be a very foresty. My mind seems it's gonna be quite in the forest. And I think maybe we can do a video another time about maybe some progress work. Maybe a little paint with me situation going on in the future. So I'm actually putting in a brown. Normally I don't actually do any dark colors in the background, but I feel like this time it's something I want. Should experiment with this a little, some darker areas as well. Oh, yes. Peach tea is one of my favorite all-time beverages. I love tea. I think it's so great. Pretty much drink only 3 liquids, which would be water. Sometimes flavored salsa water, but a lot of water, tea, and coffee. Coffee is necessary for life. At least for mine. So you may hear in the background a movie playing. There's movies quite a bit, but during the holidays season, being with this holiday being Halloween, I always like to watch a Halloween movie at least once a day or part of one, like Halloween TV show or something like that. So I've got my HP playing in the background. Let's see. Weird and some purple. So normally purple is like, this is kind of a straight out of the tube color actually, because purple is one of the colors that is very, very difficult to change. They do like to mix colors as well. Get some weird colors going. And I kind of sometimes mix as I go, do like layers, thin layers to create something kind of unique. So this is definitely, this purple and pink is not the color palette that I'm going to use in the main painting, but as it's going to be part of the underpainting here, for me, I get a little more experimental. Um, and some might peek through, which is kind of exciting sometimes when you see a color that you weren't expecting. Like if I'm doing a natural science sort of thing with an animal and maybe a figure or something like that, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's a bright pink or some bright purple. Like where did that come from? Really kind of interesting. Remind you that it's a little more whimsical. So a lot of stuff I do tends to be pretty whimsical, actually. I guess that's a good way to describe it. Some people might say surrealist. Some people might say impressionist. I like the idea of whimsical. This so this block is actually getting towards the end. There's very few pages left in it, and therefore it is like bowing and kind of peeling up a little bit at the corners. But I do want to say that I really do love working on watercolor block. It's great. It's kind of, I guess I'm a little lazy when it comes to like prepping stuff up sometimes. So it's like, oh, I'll just flip the cover and I'm ready to go. I don't have to worry about taping stuff down. And then there's always the technique when you are doing watercolor paper of wetting the paper to prepare it for painting and then taping it down so that way it doesn't stretch and bow when you're painting on it. But this kind of goes up the middle. I like. I'm just adding a little more water into that because I'm feeling like I need some big areas of color. I'm interested in some big areas of maybe a big area of red. I'm not putting it all together. So let me know too. If you're an artist. How do you like to handle a background? You know? Like, do you like to render everything super fine? Do you like a little more abstract situation? For me, I know that whenever I saw people who could do like a rendering really in depth of, say, like a cityscape or something, I was always very impressed by that. It always seemed very impressive to me because it's just not really my super wheelhouse. Maybe I want to do a little color surprise. then sometimes just letting it run. This is the cool thing about watercolor too, is that sometimes even just letting it do what it wants to do on its own can give you some really, really interesting shapes and some really interesting interplay of color. Getting some interesting things going on over here now. Actually, water in here. Just plain clear water. Working on myself. Patiently. I guess in this way, you know, to me that this is going to tell its own story too. So a lot of times when I meet people, they often ask me questions like, what does this mean? Or like, what does this represent, I guess, even to me. And I feel like, in a way, it's a little difficult to say, but what I want to tell people in the end is really, for me, everybody perceives and experiences art in a different way. And I, personally, this is my personal opinion, I'm always just happy enough if somebody views something that I've created and says, you know, I just like that for whatever reason of their own. Or even if they don't like it. I think it's a very personal experience. And I feel like everybody takes something a little bit differently. And that's kind of what I like too. I think it's really neat that, you know, 100 different people can look at a piece of work, painting, or, you know, a drawing or whatever, and get a totally different story from it. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I find most beautiful about artwork in general and creativeness, is that everybody takes something a little different because everybody's life experience is different. So I always, you know, do have to say, I guess, yeah, so when I was creating this is sort of was my intention at the time. But I always want to tell people, you know, whatever you take away from it, I think it's good enough for me. I don't ever want to tell anybody what they should see or what they shouldn't see. And I think starting in this way, to me, kind of gives people who maybe don't have like a lot of ideas about what the subject matter is, like what it means, quote unquote. But that maybe they can look at the way this color makes this shape and the way it touches, you know, this other color here. I think that's just as valid, just to look at something and say, you know, I really appreciate this brushstroke. I really like the way that this water played here with this color. I like the edge that that created. I think part of that comes from some of my experience in art school as well, because I think when you're in school, you kind of got this idea like you don't have to like everybody's piece. Liking something and, you know, recognizing that something is valid are two kind of different things, two kind of different ways of thinking. So it's like, you know, I might not like the subject matter of, you know, XYZ person's painting, but if I can look at it and say, you know, you really have a great, in this work, grasp of, you know, shading. You have like a great idea of where you're going with your color theory, or, you know, the way you render a human figure is, you know, super admirable. I definitely think that that is kind of where you change from just an observer to a somebody who takes a little bit of almost sort of responsibility into like their viewing of an artwork, where you could say, you know, I might not like this, but I can recognize what's good about it and, you know, what may need improvement, but a different lens. The difference between criticism and constructive criticism. I actually, strangely enough, never really cared for abstract art that much. So it is funny that even though I work pretty representationally most of the time, that the literal underpainting of most of my larger works are completely abstracted. I'll went in with the pink again. I just thought I had to spice it up. I'm dipping into some of my older colors too. I can't help it, I love them so. Alrighty. I'm getting close to the time when I'm gonna say I've touched almost all the corners. There's something really just so weird and cool happening here. Like, it's super dark and strange, but I'm just going to leave it because I really love it. And that is actually something that was created by one of those times when I was moving the actual the watercolor block back and forth. And like, I love it. It's probably my favorite part of this whole thing at this point. And so I just want to add a couple of other areas that are a little maybe darker to kind of like anchor it a little bit more. Doing this corner. last little corner over here. Sometimes I'll leave a corner a little bit lighter if all the other ones have stuff kind of going on. Just because need something in every single kind of corner. Another cigarette. I'm drawing with this another one. Do you guys have any movies that you like to watch while you're painting? I used to, every time I was doing homework, especially with my friends, Kathy, we would always put on like some sort of BBC or like, you know, like a movie adaptation of like a Jane Austen. We used to really love that Sense and Sensibility that had Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson. Oh, I probably watch that every day. Like honestly, I haven't actually watched it in a really long time, but that was like my number one go-to movie for a really, really long time when it came to like stuff to put on. I know a lot of people listen to music, and sometimes I listen to music too, but in general, I feel like I put a lot of movies on. Well, my original intention was kind of to use these leaves as like a serious, like, jumping off point. And there's definitely yellow, and there's definitely green, and there's definitely red, but it's definitely kind of took a different turn as well, which I'm kind of glad, because that's actually probably my favorite part, is the part that are a little tougher, a little stranger, a little more colorful. So definitely is an interesting background so far, and I'm excited to see what it is going to be when it dries. And yeah, excited to work on it. And I'm excited to keep you guys updated with that as well. So I hope that you enjoy and have a good one.